Hi everybody, Magpie here to talk about episode 8 titled Ominous Developments, and what an episode that was. Today I have a special guest to share impressions with. This week, Trash from Trash-Tier Waifu, who most of you must already know from his incredibly detailed light novel deep dive videos, is joining me. So hey there Trash, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely, thank you for having me.
I'm just so excited to talk about this episode because wasn't it? Oh my gosh, what did you think about it?
I thought this was a really great episode. There was just so much going on, and honestly, it's just like that moment right before the whole thing just kind of comes to a head, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I like to read the comments on Crunchyroll, and somebody said the title of this episode should have been Ominous Cliffhangers. I 100% agree with that.
Absolutely.
So, last episode left us with Delia throwing a fit because she learned from that sneaky snake Arno that the high priest was looking into having Dirk be adopted. And then Mine walks into this conversation. What do you think about the way that the anime portrayed this?
I think it really condensed the scene down, not in a bad way, absolutely, because it just took all the fat from it, where they have to go upstairs, they have tea and everything. It cuts all that stuff out and just really cuts to the heart of it, of just what is Delia's problem. Gets into Mine saying, hey, I'm the one who asked Ferdinand to look. And really, I think it just kind of summarizes the scene well, but still keeps the same feel.
The light novel did say that Mine had Delia go and make some tea so she could cool off, and there was not a moment wasted. And overall, this whole episode, I felt that it felt really well paced. There was some stuff that they left out, but no complaints here in general. I keep noticing how Damuel just keeps getting reaction shots when somebody approaches or like touches Mine. Like he just like kind of like looks shocked, but he doesn't do anything.
Honestly, due to his job as a guard, he definitely should have stepped in. And I noticed that too, where they keep cutting to Damuel showing like little reaction shots, and it's stuff that I feel like goes unsaid in the novels because Mine's not a reliable narrator. She's not going to say every time somebody touches her or says something rude to her that Damuel's going to react in any way, but I think that's a nice little touch that the animators are adding.
Yeah, so I've been complaining that he has to step up his game. Like, Damuel, come on. So at least this was our boy's turn to shine.
He's finally getting his little badge of honor here.
Yes, I mean, he has a stab, he's a noble. Like, even Otto, like, underestimated him. Do you notice how he's like, what? You're a noble? Because he's just been in the background. Obviously, as a guard, you're not supposed to, like, put yourself forward. But he thought he was just some random dudes, you know, standing about following Mine. But
yeah.
One of the things I noticed is that as we approach that rising action and that climax, we get the story tying up loose ends with regards to the city and all the projects that Mine has been working on up until this point. It's a really important part of what makes Bookworm. It's all these collaborations that Mine has been in the middle of. Which of all of these were your favorite? Or which ones do you want to make note of?
Yeah, I think something, and I noticed it this episode, is they actually added a small little scene from one of the side stories in this volume. At least volume, I guess it'd be 7 or part 2, volume 4, however you want to go off that. But they added this little scene with Heidi walking into a paint shop. And I think that was a nice little touch, nice little inclusion into this episode. And I think that's all really cool stuff that they're adding in. They're showing what the lower city people are doing, how they're reacting, things like that. And again, this is all stuff that you don't see in the main story because it's just kind of glossed over. It's like, Mine goes here, she does this, she talks to this person, this gets brought up. Next scene. And I feel like they're going a little bit more out of their way this season to show what the lower city's doing. Because, I mean, it's a huge city. There's a lot of people in it. There's a lot of things going on.
So we not only get Heidi, but we get also Johan.
Johan is such a great character in the light novels. And I feel like they're finally like having to put him in this season. It's like, no, he needed to be in last season too.
You know, it's just good to see that they're not losing focus of what made this show so nice to begin with, which was all the inventions and all the people that she's gathering. Because not only do we have one Gutenberg, in this episode we see how the number of Gutenbergs has increased. And it's funny to see how some of them, they're like, I don't want to be a Gutenberg. And one particular person was super excited to be a Gutenberg. And again, it's Heidi. You know, it's true that she's a second mind. She's just so boisterous and so bubbly. I love her, and I'm glad that they included her. Like you said, that they're giving her extra time. One of the episodes before, when Gil was doing painting on the paper, I was like, I wish they would show the paint strokes on the paper, because they were just putting like people looking, like the shot of all of them looking down, but we never saw exactly as he drew. So it was a nice change to see the colors and the brush strokes on the paper. I feel like some episodes, they have a little bit better artwork and line work. So this one, I think this was one of those episodes that they gave a little bit more love to.
Right, yeah. And it seems like they're definitely weighting this season, at least in the animation department, towards the back half, which is, from the light novels, definitely needed in this one.
So going back to all the Gutenbergs, they have a particular art style here, which I saw repeated in the openings. And you know how they have a paper that has mine sketched out and then it's colored in. And I liked how they go back to that artwork when they describe all the Gutenbergs, Johann, Benno, everybody else. It's the same. First it goes to line work and then they draw it in.
Oh, it's a nice little touch when they always do stuff like that.
Whoever came up with that was really, really nice.
I noticed that this series does that a lot, where it just kind of goes a little more artistic with how it does like simple explanations. It'll cut into like Mine's little inner mind, how she's all like chibi style and everything. And especially with the painting, I love that whole aesthetic that they go with.
Yeah, and it's so classic and fitting to the time period that she's like living in, where everything's still, the art's still hand-drawn. This is before we have printing presses and all that stuff. So it's really fitting, really nice choice. However, we're not even halfway into the episode when everything begins to, you know, ramp up and develop. Going into this episode, how far along did you think that they would adapt from the light novel?
I honestly thought that they would get to where they stopped. I honestly picture, just based on the flow of events, how everything flows into one another. And that's such a good stopping point for both just a really good cliffhanger, and it's right when the events of the story are about to like launch into the climax. So this was such an important episode on that front. And, you know, just seeing the argument with Delia, seeing them cover especially the cat bells. I didn't expect them to actually get to that. I thought they would cut that part entirely.
I was really surprised, like, that at that halfway point, like, I was like, no way, they're actually going to go for like the whole thing and go when she gets kidnapped. So I was like, I'm all for it, ready for it. I strapped in. I was like, let's do this. Because it's just a roller coaster from here on out. After this, we get an extra scene. Tell me your impressions of that extra scene.
So that's one of the things that I feel like the light novels don't have, is stuff like that, where they cut to Bezewanst and he's throwing this huge tantrum, and it's just the type of stuff that you need to really make the audience hate him. And it's so good that they include that type of stuff, because he feels almost disconnected. Like, the plot happens, and then at the end, he's just like there menacingly, like writhing his hands. But like in the anime, you see his reactions, you see him trying to set this plot into motion, and it's not just the beginning and end. And I love that they've added stuff like that.
Man, when I saw him abuse his attendant, like my blood just started boiling. I was like, how dare you?
And it's disgusting, but I just, hang on, please. Just everybody hang on. He gets what he deserves, I swear.
If there was any other way to make me hate a person, that was, oh my gosh, just seeing people. I just have a pet peeve, like people abusing others in service. I don't know. I have been in service, so for me to see that,
right,
it just really made me angry. I'm like, okay, so we're seeing that he's just a really bad person. But he also shows us that part of his thing, his rage, was the fact that he has this inferiority complex that's just rearing its ugly head. A lot of people, and I myself, I don't like Yenny. I don't like her at all. So part of me was saying like, hey, Jenny, like you see your friend, you know, your coworker being struck down, like rush in and help her, dude. Like do something, get in between, you know, like we usually expect somebody to be a hero to another person. But in this case, I kind of felt like Jenny has also been a victim and she was petrified in fear. I saw she was trembling. My first response would have been like to go and save her friend. But on the other hand, she's already like been abused in that same way.
Right. She's had so much horrible stuff done to her, just not explicitly in the books, but you know it's happened just because you know the type of person Bezewanst is, you know all the stuff that he's supports and that he's into, and it's just like, I feel bad for you. I don't like you, but I still feel bad for you.
Yeah. So these extra scenes that they add, they just give these characters more human attributes. They make them like individuals with fears, you know, desires of their own. And that actually makes it even more complex and difficult to like say like, okay, this person is just bad and irredeemably bad. And let's put him in this pigeonhole of bad people who need to get what they deserve.
Exactly.
The only person that hasn't gotten that at all is Ardo.
Oh, they've done such a great job making you hate him. Oh,
oh man.
I remember in the books, it's very subtle. But in this season, they've just added him with a face that you just want to punch him.
Yeah. All right. So then we're back to Mine and her stuffed toys.
Those rare moments where Mine's trying to be a big sister and Camille just crying, those are so perfect. I think that encapsulates her family life so well and why that aspect of this story just resonates with so many people. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a great scene to see her try to get him to, like, I guess, love her. That sounds awful, but, you know, just to try and show that little bit of affection and to see him cry. It always breaks her heart, but she's always like, one of these days. I actually loved at the end of that scene, they included like just a little kind of like figment of her imagination where it goes into like the little chibi mode again. Yes. And you see like Camille leaps into her arms. Like that's so cute. And I love those when they do stuff like that.
It took 5 days for Mine to be able to return to the cathedral. She notices that there's a particular still quality to her office. And that's because there's somebody missing.
Oh, Delia's missing. Along with a particular crying child.
It came out of the blue for her. And honestly, when I read the light novel, it came out of the blue for me too. I was like, whoa, what is going on? I thought everything was cool. We get the talk that Mine and Delia have. What did you think about this talk that they had?
And this is, I don't know how wide-reaching the implications of this is, but I noticed at the end of this conversation, Mine's talking to Delia, getting why she decided to leave, which I noticed they included her talking to Bezewanst, the High Bishop, or I guess High Priest in the Crunchyroll adaptation. She was talking to him about Dirk, and he kind of puts those pieces together, and that's when he's like, I know exactly how to get this whole master plan that we saw set up in the scene with him and Bindewald. Mm-hmm. So it shows that, and then it cuts to Delia saying like, yes, I'm fine, like, and Mine just dismisses her. But there's a little bit at the end of that conversation that they cut off, and I don't know how far-reaching that's going to be, but Mine kind of pulls at Delia's heartstrings a bit there, and she says, like, we missed you, like, we were worried about you when you left, like, you didn't tell anybody. And Delia just kind of apologizes and, like, leaves. So I'm wondering how that's going to play later on, but I don't want to get into spoilers for people.
Yeah, I also noticed that Delia did tell her also in the light novel. It's like, well, the High Bishop said if you tell your mistress about these plans, she's not going to let you do anything. So basically my notes like, oh, so she's just going to blame the High Bishop, which is actually going to become a recurring theme. We're going to blame everything on the High Bishop, right?
He's the perfect scapegoat.
Yep. But he's earned our wrath and he gets what he deserves. So going back to the little flashback when she talked to Bezewanst about Dirk, he looks just like a Santa Claus right there. So benign, so kind. He'll take care of everything for her. And meanwhile, behind him, there's Jenny, and then the other assistant that he struck is nowhere to be seen. She's been replaced by some other lady. Not only another lady, but an underage girl. Delia, unfortunately, you're too blind and too young to see that you've been played. We're worried. I'm worried for you, Delia.
She was almost a person.
Yes, she was. She was. Mine is understandably very upset after she dismisses Delia. But then we have this conversation with Fran that I really liked a lot.
That is actually one of my favorite scenes in the book because it's not really explicitly stated, but Fran has issues with female shrine maidens, blue robe shrine maidens, or blue robe priestesses in Crunchyroll dub. Mm-hmm. And so when you see him really caring about mine, it's almost... I get the feeling that it's not so much that master-servant relationship, but it's almost like he cares about her as a person at that point. He's saying, like, you need to be careful. Mm-hmm. Like, he can tell that there's something up. He knows there's something wrong with the High Bishop. He knows that Delia is getting wrapped up in this trap, and he's telling her, you need to be very careful around her. And it's just one of these rare moments where you see Fran is putting his entire heart on the line here, like trying to reach her, like, please, mm-hmm. just don't do this. And it was just such a good scene. I liked how they handled it with him getting down on one knee to look her in the eye, taking her hand, like, and just pleading with her. And it's such a good scene.
That face that they put in him, like, he's just so earnest, because she was definitely still worried about Delia, but Delia is gone and she's chosen her path, and that's something that also Rosina reminded her. We can't do anything about it now.
Like, it's completely out of their hands, and Delia's chosen this path herself, like, and they know that they can't stop her. They know that the nobles are now behind all this, and all they can really do is try to protect mine as much as they can.
And while they're talking, meanwhile, there's a carriage at the gate. We don't know who's in the carriage, but we know enough that any carriage trying to get into the city is going to be suspicious. Everybody knows this. Even the soldier squinting at the permit knows this. But they're let through into the city. And I know stuff is gonna go down. Soon after that, Mine is in her office when Tuli comes to get her.
It's a really nice gesture that they all showed up to support Mine, and they're like, we're going to take you home, we'll protect you. And then she gives, like, that worried look, and Damuel finally gets to speak up, and he's like, this is making my job pretty hard.
Yes. And, I totally get it, how, like, they want to be super protective of Mine. Up to this time, they've always been the caretakers of Mine. Like, anytime she falls sick, there's Tuli and Lutz. And, Gil also, when she collapses, they're there. So they're so used to taking care of her. So it's become second nature. When I first saw the anime, I was like, you stupid kids, what are you... Go away. Because I know what was going to happen. But as I thought about it, I'm like, these kids, they're just doing what they've always done. And they've always been able to take care of her no matter what. So I just want to say, people, please don't get upset at these children. They're doing their best. Don't be me and blame Tuli.
No, Tuli's just doing what's second nature to her as a big sister.
While they're walking home, they meet up with Otto, who gives them like, oh, there you are, Mine. Oh, I'm so glad that you're good. Your father is having a fit and went to go run to go get you at the temple. So there was a flashback there, right?
Yeah, they actually showed that scene. I was pretty surprised they actually showed that scene as opposed to just saying how in the books it's just described that Gunther hears that they didn't relay this message and he just races off. Well, then we actually see him like grab the guy. I don't remember if he punched him in the episode, but knowing Gunther, he probably did.
So I think he grabbed the soldier and he probably shook him up, but it's specifically stated in the light novel he punched the commander of that gate.
And he deserved that punch.
Yes. And, you just see in that flashback the look of just utter horror in Gunther's face at the thought of Mine being in danger. Like, I absolutely loved how they drew him. Like, I felt the horror, like the visceral horror that he felt like at the thought of what could be happening to Mine. That's why he runs off to go get her. Meanwhile, they're looking in the city for the carriage, and I'm like, face palm, no, you guys are looking in the wrong place. As Fran had told Mine, the carriage, the invitation, came from the High Bishop, so obviously the carriage is going to be somewhere in the temple. The person they're looking for is going to be somewhere in the temple. But anyway, it's hard to connect the dots when you're in crisis mode. So here we get Damuel in action.
Seeing Damuel finally pull out his wand. I love this scene in the book too, because he pulls out his wand and Oto's just like, wait, you're a noble? And it feels so silly in the books because I don't know. I always just read this and it's like, Oto, really? But in this, he's legitimately surprised. He's very serious. He's like, whoa. Because they don't see magic like this up close, ever. And to see somebody just pull out a stop and point it straight up and shoot a spell is huge to them.
Yeah, because even for them at the gate, they had to have a magic tool, which is basically like a little hammer you strike and it creates that red signal. So for them to be able to see that was mind-blowing, I'm sure, to Otto. And yeah, it would cause a surprise. Do you think that the rot also led to the captors or the people being able to find her?
I honestly think, the more I think about it, I feel like, yeah, that's what gave her away. That's right there. That's the signal flare telling everybody, I bet that's where the girl we're looking for is at. She's got magic. We know that she's got a guard with her who can use magic. So that's probably it. As opposed to, maybe they were tailing, but they might have lost him because they're going through all these tiny little alleyways and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a quick way to find somebody. But
then what do? You can't send an ordinance there because you need to do it quickly, right?
Right.
So,
that's the thing they're supposed to do. They're trained to do that. Whenever there is trouble, they are always supposed to fire rot into the air to get the knight's order to come.
So we get the kidnapping. That was pretty intense.
Oh, that slow reveal as Mine says Tuli's name. And then she turns to look and Tuli's not there.
Ooh.
And then how they handled it with just that hand reflected in her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good how they did that.
It just cuts to black. And then and then you just see Damuel suddenly turn around and see these two guys running with, two bags. And inside those bags are two children. And the camera tilts up and we see the sky and we see a cloud covering the sun. Ooh. And we get it to be continued in there. And I'm like, no! What a way to make a cliffhanger.
They definitely know how to do that. Especially in the middle of the season, that is how you get people to tune in next week.
Man, I'm going to be tuning in next week for sure. I'll be refreshing Crunchyroll like crazy. This is the end of the coziness. This is the end of all the slow, fun stuff, the invention stuff, because right now we just have to get ready for next episode, which is going to be titled The Black Charm. Who do you think will come in play with this title?
Oh, if I think about it, wasn't there somebody in the first half of this season who gave Mine a black charm?
Yeah, I do remember somebody. Maybe we'll get him back in next episode. So, yeah. Afterwards, we get another chibi scene, those wonderful, precious chibi scenes.
I just love seeing Gunther act like a father, because that's just where he shines, is that fatherly love, and seeing him get all worked up. Mm-hmm. And seeing that in chibi form is just that much better.
Yeah. I think that the tension from the cliffhanger is we kind of get a little break from there to remind us basically what this show is about. Like you said, Gunther is all about his family. But in the end, this show is, the whole theme of this season has been about family as well. Not only the family that you're born in, but also the family that you create. So these are just little reminders. And I like how we get more Gunther chibi scenes, of course. And And do you notice in the dialogue, he said that when he was talking about the commander in the East Gate who didn't spread the word, he said, I am going to punch him again.
So he did punch him.
He did punch him. You get mine holding him back like, no, Dad, no.
Somebody's going to have to hold him back because, well, don't want to spoil it, but...
I look forward to the next episode, and I don't look forward to it. I look forward to it because I think we have been waiting so long to get to this point. So, man, just thoughts overall of this episode. What was your favorite shot, your favorite part in this episode? Or, maybe you have multiple.
Honestly, I liked everything that they added in. Just, again, those little moments with Bezewanst, with Delia talking to him, and even that little scene at the gate. But I just keep going back to that scene with Fran. It's just so impactful. And the art direction just in general was on point. The animators knew what they were doing. They knew how to tell all the best parts of this episode well. And I think it all just came together.
Yes, this definitely one of my favorite episodes was episode 4. The action scene that was intense. But I like this one so much because they managed to make a perfect package of what makes this anime so good. You get the city, you get the family, you get all the loose threads. They're tying them up because we're getting ready for the end. But yet the pacing felt so natural. There were things cut out, but I am not complaining. Whoever wrote this or whoever was in charge of this one did so good. I don't know if this question even applies, but if you could have changed anything from this episode, what would it have been if you have anything?
I really don't. Like you said, they did such a great job animating it. It's all very well paced that this was just one of the best episodes that they've adapted so far. And I can't really think of anything to really change. Everything they cut out was either abridged perfectly or it was stuff that wasn't necessary for the story being told.
Any other thoughts you have about this episode, the characters, or anything about?
Well, I think they just did a good job at reminding us the stakes, and now we're about to see all that put on the line in the next few episodes, so it's definitely a lot to look forward to. And I would like to say where I think it's going, but I don't want to spoil it for any viewers, so I'll leave it off there.
Yeah, and that is all we have to say for episode 8. And man, just so much fun talking about it with Trash. And Trash, is there anything you want to say about your channel? Because like I said before, he is responsible for some of the most delightful videos that we have on Bookworm. The light novel deep dives, he's covered like several volumes. He goes into not only the plot points, he not only does makes visuals and lots of little jokes in there with the little dialogues, which I find so fun. I always have to rewind to check them all out. But he also provides ample analysis and about the characters and just about the story. So I highly recommend you guys check it out. But is there anything you want to plug in and just talk about here?
Honestly, I would say check out the Ascendance of a Bookworm Reddit. There's a lot of great people on there with a lot of great content, a lot of great discussions. Obviously, follow me if you want some more Bookworm stuff. I'm slowly working my way through each of the light novels. And yeah.
And also be sure to follow Trash on his Twitter. I will leave all the links to his channel, his socials. All of them are in the description. Please be sure to check them out. I think it was soon after I started doing this channel, I found yours. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. So thank you, Senpai, for all your hard work. You've inspired me to continue to do my own thing.
Well, thank you for doing this as well. I really enjoy your content too.
Thank you. Really appreciate you joining us, and hopefully we can do another one soon.
Absolutely.
And that concludes Trash and my discussion on this episode. But now, I just love to hear from you all. Bookworms, what did you think about this episode? There were so many things we wanted to talk about, but unfortunately, I always have to edit down these collabs, so there's definitely a chance we may have overlooked a detail. So please share it in the comments. Light novel readers, thank you for being good sports about spoilers and hiding them from anime onlys. As for those of you who have not read the light novels, well, good luck in not picking up the books to find out what happens next. I guarantee it will be very fun and very much worth the wait. However, if you do want to pick up the novels, why not do it and support your favorite magpie by using the affiliate links in the descriptions? And if you want to go a step further, you can support me via Ko-fi with a one-time donation, or better yet, a membership. I have members-only videos and beta reader access to scripts and such in there already, including the next anime versus light novel video I'm working on right now, so check it out if you're interested. Finally, I want to recognize the bookworms that have been so incredibly wonderful about supporting me via YouTube thanks, Ko-fi donations, and memberships. I'm just in awe of all of you and your generosity. Thank you so much. I send you virtual hugs and kisses. So until the next time, everyone, bye bye.